Tita, I can see you there. And hi, Alicia. Hi, Claudia. Hi, Astrobo. And thank you so much for being here. So you can see down there, you have your screen that you can share, your chat. At some stage, I can unmute that, but this worked very well yesterday. So we're going to keep it like that. Yesterday, we spoke about the funding mechanisms. We're going to put it up there. And today, we're going to talk about the major flaws that there are on that we find on funding. So let me just share with you the screen to show you there's a lot of options available for funding. So these are just some examples of them. Founders, friends, family. These are called the 3F. I had a professor who used to joke, and he said, the best investors are the in-laws because you always win. If you lose the money, you always win. And if you make the money, you also win. So he was very funny about that. Founders are also called the fools in entrepreneurial circles because they might not know what they want to do or what they're doing. So the first three in the column are founders, friends, and family. There's another group that I had: gifting, sponsors, partners, factoring, and grants. Those are on funding mechanisms. There's crowdfunding on the side, angel investors, equity partners, venture capital funds, corporate venture funds, convertible loans, short-term and long-term debt. Those are pretty much the main funding sources. We can talk a little bit more about other forms, factoring and other forms, but these are the primary ones, and these are the ones that I want to focus. When people think about funding, they traditionally think about the bank, which is right here in the bottom. And when people think about startups, they also think about angel investors or venture capital funds. Venture capital funds, as I said yesterday, is like the Olympics of equity funding. So a lot of people look at that and they're very visible, but that's not very common, contrary to what most people think. People who are looking for causes, they usually go into gifting, sponsorships, and partners. You can also use factoring and grants. So these are just a combination of all sorts of funding sources that we have available. So let me just close this up here. Good. So this is the issue. When you get funded, you receive somebody's belief that you can do something that you say that you were going to do. That's what they give you money. In reality, when you try to do something, things don't happen the way you plan, and that causes disappointment. Now, as the dreamer turning things into action, you know that you're doing your best effort and you know that things take longer. To give you an example, we've been trying for 2 or 3 days to upload a video, and we're having a lot of problems with technology and with gadgets, and we need to resolve that. So those things cause delays, and delays cost money. For many people providing funds, this could be very, very disappointing. And what you need to do is you need to establish first how it is that you're measuring success, and then break that in actionable items. You've heard me talk about actionable items several times because you need to be able to evaluate what are you doing, and you need to be able to provide that information. When I was managing a venture capital fund, I realized that what people plan to do could probably continue to exist, but their performance could be different and the achievements could be different. And at the end, you start questioning, is this worth doing or not? And then you change. That change is called pivoting, but you have to go through stages. So let's think about the process in a holistic way so you can act and think, not only just watch and see others do that. You have to have a plan. We already talked about being passionate about what it is that you want to do and why it is important to you. Then we talk about defining who you want to invite to participate with you. Then we talked about the funding mechanisms, whether it is debt or whether it is equity or whether it is unfunding. And we explore that a little bit more. And now we're going into how do you execute that? So if you're thinking you're going from A to B and you've never driven through that road, chances are that you're going to encounter difficulties. So what you need to do is first establish where it is that you want to go. You remember Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know where you're going, anywhere is well. Anywhere is fine. So you need to define what it is that you want to do. Then you need to define at least a couple of milestones that help you evaluate if you are on track. So you have this milestone and another milestone. The way I like to do it is I like to put a milestone based on time, because that keeps me on track. Chances are that it's going to take longer and it's going to cost double and you're going to achieve half of the results, but you need to have a timeline so you can keep on track. Entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, people who are passionate about what it is that they're doing, they usually overwork themselves because they want to get things done. If you don't have a sense of where your timeline is, you can get lost, you can get frustrated, and you can lose the focus of what it is that you're doing. In microbiology, which is the study of microbes, there is a metaphor that I really like. If you want to fill a glass of water with bacteria and they reproduce, they double their population every second, you have the glass is half full 1 second before it is full. So by just thinking about what it is, the milestones that you have and how are you evaluating your performance, that helps you keep on track. The other thing that I also find useful is what I call key performance indicators. So what are the numbers that help you be on track? It is the people that come and watch you. Is that the people that come and use your stuff? Is that the people that buy from you? If we think that money is an illusion, then we can act accordingly. And we can realize that profits, income, sponsors, activities, they're all related to money, but that is the language. That is not the message. We need to talk about the message. That is very important in order to continue the progress. So we have key performance indicators, and we have milestones, and then we have our major events. As I said before, I highly recommend that you break your path into actionable items and you evaluate every 6 months and every 12 months so you can take action. The biggest problem with funding, it is that what you plan to do is not going to happen. That is the biggest problem. So you're making a promise of something that you want to accomplish, and you know you're not going to be able to accomplish that. But because you don't know how you're going to have to shift and how you're going to have to change the expectations, the only way that you can move ahead is to get the funds and start working on that. That is the only way you can do it. So this is very tricky, especially for people who don't like surprises. But you will have surprises along the way, especially if you're doing something innovative and new. So if we go back to what are the founders, the initial founders, and we look at the founders, friends, and family. These are the three initial providers of funds. And sometimes these funds are not in capital, but in what it's called in kind. There was a question yesterday about sweat equity, so we're going to continue and answer that at the end. So founders put a lot of their time and effort and a lot of intention into creating something that is new. It doesn't matter if they're created as a startup. It could be an idea within a corporation or within a government institution, or it could be a cause. But they put a lot of thought into how you're going to design what it is that you're going to do, researching who has done it, modifying, and all of that. That is what is called sweat equity as well. The main issue with founders is that founders get exhausted. That is the principal problem with founders. I've started 8 companies and 2 nonprofits. And on many occasions, I've started that with co-founders, which I really appreciate. I admire. We get along very well. We start working and we get frustrated and the team breaks down because we are all very tired and we don't get to do the things that we want to do. That is why I told you in the very, very first conversation that you needed to be passionate about what it is that you're doing, because passion builds resilience and it allows you to keep focused and keep doing what it is that you need to do. So in terms of founders, the main flaw or the main problem is exhaustion. How do you deal with exhaustion? You have to take a break. So the other members of the founding team need to understand that you need to take a break despite not being able to reach what it is, the milestone that you said you were going to reach. It is beyond your control sometimes. So you need to do that. And then you need to be able to take scheduled breaks. But having said that, you need to be able to go back on track. When I invest in companies as an angel investor or as a manager of a seed capital fund, that was the one thing that we looked for. We made sure that our funders were not burnt out. How did we do that? We had weekly meetings. We evaluated how tired they were. We also saw if we could help them out achieve their results by providing some guidance or context of some information about some skills or new technology that was available for them. But even in those cases, sometimes founders don't want to participate in the business anymore. So how do you deal with that? And situations change. How do you deal with that? The way to deal with exhaustion is by taking rest and managing the process. And then defining how the founders are going to get back on track and when they get back on track, because you don't want a founder that is slack because it doesn't help. But then the other way of managing that is providing founders with what I call an elegant way out. You need to define when you start a business how the founders leave. That is very, very important. I've invested in companies where the founders break apart, and then we have to define how we're going to separate the team, what is the value of the shares of each of the founders, what are the conditions that we have so the founders don't go and start something else that compete against the original founder's idea. So that is the two ways that you manage, you prevent and you manage and you resolve problems with founders. You manage exhaustion and you take breaks, you help them out, you evaluate how tired they are, you talk about that between yourselves, and you have an elegant way out so they can leave if they choose not to be in the team. I had the unfortunate experience where I had to fire the CEO of a company that had 75% on the business, and he was a wonderful person, but he was not able to lead his team. So the team was getting frustrated. We were working on that for 3 or 4 years, and we had to get him out of the management position. He still was part of the shareholders on the condition that he did not start another company that competed with that. And eventually we bought him out. If you want to hear a funny story, that was exactly the way things happened with the McDonald brothers that were bought out by the person who grew McDonald's, who was not the original founder too. So that has happened in a lot of circumstances. Then I want to move to the friends and family. They're slightly different because friends have an emotional attachment with you, but the relationship with friends has what I call a healthy frailty. So you can stop being friends, but you can never stop being relatives. And relatives usually define us. That's why we are so strict with our relatives, because we want them to be perfect. So if you're going to get funds from friends and relatives, you need to be able to tell them ahead of time that things are not going well. In the case of friends, that it could be easier because the friends can understand that you don't have to be perfect. In the case of family, it's much harder because your family wants you to be perfect because you represent them. So the way you manage families and friends is different. The risks that you take are also different. So if you go to family members to request some funds, you need to be able to provide them with the information that they need to know that things are not going well. And also, you need to be able to manage their frustration when you don't accomplish what you need to accomplish because you're not perfect. You see what I mean? Families expect you to be perfect. Friends don't expect you to be perfect. So you need to separate those two. The way you manage that is you provide the information to families and friends in the way that they know that you need to make certain changes. Family members might not necessarily come to help you out, whereas friends might, because friends have been pre-selected by you to participate in a different way than families. Families have the intention to help you out because they want you to be successful in a different way. And maybe they would get some access to that in a different way as well. One of the interesting observations that I have with families and friends, especially with relatives, is that people tend to think that they don't have to pay back. Even if a relative gives you some money for free, it would be wise to put aside an amount of money so in the future you can pay that back, or you can make a donation on their behalf. A lot of people tend to have this sense of entitlement that causes a lot of friction in families. So I highly recommend making sure that you have a way to refund or to return an investment and to your relatives. Relatives seldom expect to gain another benefit. They probably are just, happy just to get the capital back. That's what I have found. You can also put that capital towards a donation on their behalf, or a bequest, or some other form of support for a cause that they feel. But make sure you do that after you talk to them. If this is your first startup or your first cause, chances are also that you will fail, and that is very hard. So make sure you limit the involvement in the amount of capital that you request to milestones. So when you start failing, because that has happened to me and has happened to many people that I know, they don't lose that much money, and you leverage that with unfunding. So that is about a relative. So make sure that they understand that things are not going the way they expect to. That's very, very typical. You need to pivot, you need to change, but also make sure that you keep your integrity, because for them, you failing has another consideration, which is it reflects bad upon them as a family member. That's very unique to family members. Let's move now into friends. Friends are a very interesting bunch. The main issue with friends is that they might not want to invest in your idea, and you need to provide them with an elegant way out when you start asking them if they would like to be involved. It is slightly different because a friend might be afraid to lose the friendship with you if the company or if the idea fails. That is not necessarily the problem that family members have. So a friend that wants to join you and participate with you has this very special place, because they're also thinking that they might have their own friendship in the line as well. So you need to have that special consideration. What I also know is that friends can provide more help than family members. That is traditionally the case. So make sure that you keep your friends informed, not only about what you're doing, but about the help that you require. Don't ask a friend, I need help calling a potential client. You can ask the friend, I need help with clients. Your request for help for friends has to be very wide, because they have their own way of doing the processes. And once you start working on your idea and making your idea happen, you get entangled into the day-to-day, and you lose focus on what is the big picture. That is typically what happens. So for example, we've been working for the last 18 hours on uploading a couple of videos with 3 different people around the world, and we can't get that done, and it's very frustrated. And then I need to step back and think, wait, what is the purpose of uploading the video is to communicate with people. We will be able to do that in the future, but we cannot get frustrated by that because we need to move on and have other programs. I can do that because I've started 10 companies. This is my 11th company. So I can do that because of my experience, but that's traditionally not the case. When you ask friends to join you, to invest or to provide you with funds, make sure you also respect their privacy. Friends might not want to be recognized publicly as helping you out. Can you imagine why? Because everybody's gonna ask them to provide them with funds. So this is a very unique situation, okay? Families and friends do not necessarily want to be recognized as funders, which is completely different to unfunding mechanisms that we're gonna move now into, okay? So those are the things. Founders, you need to have an elegant way out. You need to be careful that they can be exhausted. And then you need to be able to get them out of the business. Family members, you need to be able to tell them what's going on, and you need to be very careful because family members have a very hard time understanding that you're not perfect because that reflects bad upon them. And friends, they can help you in a very unstructured way, but they don't want to be recognized publicly as being the ones that help you. And friends would be a little bit more constrained by helping you, not because they don't want to help you or they don't want to believe in you, but because they don't want to risk the friendship. Friendships can be broken. What we call blood relationships or relatives relationships cannot be broken. You're always tied to them. So it's a different dynamics there. Do we have any questions about the 3F so far? Good. Now let's move into the unfunding mechanisms. Unfunding mechanisms are completely underexplored. I love them. I've used them so much. I started using them for a cause, for a ballet company when many years ago. I've used them for non-for-profits. And then I started thinking, why don't I use this for my business? So a typical unfunding mechanism is, for example, pre-sale. If you pre-sell something and you have not developed and delivered the product or the service, you have what is called reverse financing. You already have the funds from sales, so you don't need to ask for funding. You can also have factoring, which is slightly different. In factoring, you give your invoices to a company that gives you a cash advance, and they go and they claim the funds after a certain period of time. But you can also do partnerships, and partnerships are extremely productive because you can have some synergy. So I'll give you an example of a company that I was involved with in another country. We were doing something with videos, and we needed to provide a delivery system. So we partnered with two companies. We partnered with a taxi company, and instead of delivering that to different people, we just put the information about the video in a little box in the back of the taxi company. So what happened was that people thought that was a bonus. So that was good for them, but it saved us part of the delivery process or the delivery cost. And the other partner was a chocolate factory, and the chocolate factory wanted to be able to reach other people. So we said, well, we're going to have our video with a little chocolate. And then the interesting thing was for them, because we had organized and covered the cost of delivery, they paid us, or they gave us some money. Now we realized that we didn't really want the money. What we wanted was the packaging. So instead of making the box of the video, we made the box look like a box of chocolate. We used the delivery system of the taxi and the packaging facility that the chocolate company used. So we saved money in two ways, and the three of us benefited. So that is partnering. When you partner with others, you don't necessarily spend the money, but you both benefit, and you can open to new ways of doing things. We also have a program in the institute called Co-Creating Innovation, when we partner three different areas: academia, corporations, and startups. And what they do is very, very interesting, and it's very creative. But they don't have to spend money. You have to do things without spending money. That's the foundation of funding mechanisms. Another form of unfunding is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding involves a lot of different things, and I wrote a blog post about it. Yesterday, we had a ton of questions about crowdfunding. So make sure you go to our blog, or you can add some questions here, or on Facebook, or on Twitter, or on LinkedIn, or on YouTube, whatever you want. Crowdsourcing provides individuals with the opportunity to pre-sell or pre-test offers to the world. And it's exciting, it's inspiring, and you can use that to improve your model, not only to get funds. So when you use crowdfunding, you have the benefit of not needing to pay for the capital and having pre-sales or having potential clients or other partners to help you out. So that's another very, very interesting form of funding. The main consideration for unfunding mechanisms is that you need to provide them with recognition. So you remember when I told you that partners, friends don't want to be recognized? That's not the way it works in unfunding mechanisms. The reason why they believe in you and they give you funds or access to information is that they think what you do is exciting, and they want to be recognized for helping others do something that excites them. So make sure that you recognize them publicly and you share that with others, like I just shared you with these examples that we had. That is one of the tricks there. If you're not able to recognize them, what happens is that they lose interest in you and they don't feel that you are grateful. And that prevents them from partnering not only with you, but it also damages the possibility for other people to engage with them. So it affects everybody. And then I have a tip for you here. When you're looking to partner with somebody, make sure that you understand if they had had a bad experience. Because if they had had a bad experience, it would be harder for you to manage their expectations. So make sure they had either had positive experiences or this is their first experience, and you indulge them because they're helping you out with your project. So that is the main flaws with unfunding mechanisms. You need to recognize them. You also need to make sure that what you commit to do, you're able to do. And as I said, getting from dreams to actions is very difficult, and you can waste a lot of effort on things that don't get results because you're starting something new. Make sure you build clear expectations with them as well. I want to go now into the traditional equity funding, which is angel investors, equity partners, venture capitalists, and corporate venture funds. I'm going to separate them into two: the individual decision-making and the manager's decision-making. This is very important. Managers of venture capital funds traditionally do not own the money. So they're acting on behalf of others. And the level of involvement, the level of risk that they can take is different. So if you have an idea where you need a lot of involvement or is very, very high risk, you are much better off going through an angel group or an angel investor, or what I call an equity partner, which is usually a person that have some excess cash available that they can invest, but they don't want to sell the company. They want to keep an interest in the company and get funded or get rewards in terms of dividends. An angel investor, which is what I am, and in where I belong to a couple of groups, an angel investor wants to help. And an angel investor wants to help, and they want to grow the company and sell out. That's what an angel investor wants to do. What are the things that you need to manage? What are the main flaws or the main problems that you have with angel investors and venture capitalists in general? You need to manage their expectations. If somebody wants to get rewarded because they want to get dividends. The risk profile and the pressure that they put to grow the company fast is going to be very different than the pressure and the risk profile of somebody that wants to grow the company because they want to sell the company and they want to get out. So at the end, it depends what you want to do with that. But you need to make sure that you understand what are the two conditions that are more favorable to you. In the case of funds, funds usually have a term. So you need to make sure that what you're doing is going to be completed by the end of their term, because they need to exit. They need to get out of your investment. So if you want a very long-term partner, you shouldn't be looking for traditional venture capital funds. Or if you do, you need to make sure that you have a bridge to continue. You go IPO or you have an acquisition, but if you want to keep working on that business, you need to make sure you have a plan for that. The main problem with equity partners is that you will need to pivot. You will need to change your way of doing things. Most likely, you will also need to change your strategy, but you do not know how to do that and what it is that you need to do until you start taking action. You don't know how to do that. So you will have to keep them informed, keep them into board meetings, and help them help you by crafting a strategy to move forward towards your goal and changing your goals. If this is the first time you're doing this, this is very, very hard, because you tend to think that you're there because you made the promise and you have to fulfill that promise, and that is not necessarily true. That is why equity investors invest in the people first and later in the project, because they think that the people will be able to make the necessary shift in order to get to what they want to do. So that is the equity partners. If I can make an analogy, you can always say that Christopher Columbus failed because he really wanted to reach Africa and he found America. So that is the mindset that you have to have when you're asking for equity investors, because you will need to change and you have no idea how you're going to do that. You need their involvement and you need to keep them on track. Chances are also that an equity investor could come back and say, I'm sorry, you can no longer manage the company. So you need to be flexible about that. That is very common here in Silicon Valley. The last source of funding is debt funding. Debt funding is based on obligations. So you need to be able to demonstrate that you have the capacity and the intention to pay what you need to pay and to pay in a timely fashion. So what debtors or lenders don't want you to, what lenders don't want you to do is to default. So you need to make sure that you keep them informed and you do not default. You have to have a backup plan for that. You have to have a contingency plan so you have the funds that you require in order to pay them what you said you're going to pay them. And that applies to all the lenders because they have made promises on their money themselves. So I know this is taking much longer, 5 minutes longer than we expected before. I thank you very much for your participation, for your questions. Let me know if you have any other questions. There's a chat there. And what happens, thank you, what happens when business goes well? How do you manage the need of control, involvement, and most of them greed? You structure that in your contract. There's something called a cap. This is a great question. There is something called a cap. So you can tell people, if things go well, this is how much you get. Now, I have a personal preference for that as well, because I am a serial entrepreneur. I know that that's the part that I like. I like the creation part. So I start, I grow, and I get out, and I let somebody else run that because they are better prepared than I am, and they can make it more efficiently. I like to wake up in the morning and create things and get excited about, I am not sure how I'm going to do this. So I don't mind giving them more benefits, because chances are that I will need them again for the next venture, and they would come and join. The other thing, just remember, you choose who you bring on board. So if they're hard to deal with to begin with, don't even go there. This is like getting into a marriage knowing that you don't get along. Just, I can see you smiling. Just don't go in there. Just don't. So you pick your founders. I hope that answered your question. The question about level of involvement, you need their help, and sometimes you need to be humble about that. Sometimes they know better than you. But at the end, it is your business. You can always walk out of the business too. So you need to have that in mind. You have some level of control there. I don't know if there's any other question. We have like a couple more minutes here. Well, thank you so much. You know, you can always follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or Twitter, or you can post a question on YouTube here. I really appreciate you coming here. You're welcome. And I hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to have another conversation. And on Monday, we're going to talk about valuation. So make sure you tune in. Thank you for your feedback. Bye-bye.